In this vast, chaotic world we live in, one constant challenge that most of us face is dealing with adversaries. Whether they are rivals at work, a difficult boss, or bullies at school or online, they hover over our lives like dark clouds, often making us miserable, and in the worst cases, driving us to plot revenge or harbor resentment. But what if I told you there's a different way? A profound and transformative path that can change not just how we see our enemies, but how we see ourselves. This path is called Stoicism, a school of philosophy that originated in ancient Greece and has profound relevance even today. Stoicism teaches us that wisdom, virtue, and self-control are the highest goods. It is a philosophy that encourages us to understand the nature of our emotions, and by doing so, become better versions of ourselves. To the Stoics, every challenge, including those posed by our enemies, is an opportunity for growth, a call for self-improvement. And this is our first step towards dealing with our enemies, changing the way we perceive them. One of the foundational principles of Stoicism is that it's not the external events or people that cause us suffering, but our judgments and interpretations of them. When we hate or resent someone, the person themselves isn't what's causing our suffering. Instead, it's our judgment of them, our decision to see them as an enemy, that is the source of our pain. And this judgment, unlike the person we perceive as our enemy, is entirely within our control. Now, I know this may feel counterintuitive. You might be thinking, but they wronged me. They hurt me. How can it be my judgment that's causing the suffering? Well, consider this. Two people can experience the same event, yet have completely different emotional responses to it. Why? Because their judgments or interpretations of that event are different. So it's not the action of the enemy that decides our emotional response, it's our perception of that action. When we allow ourselves to be ruled by our judgments, we surrender the control over our emotions to the external world. But a Stoic takes a different approach. They choose to take responsibility for their interpretations and emotional responses. They realize that their feelings of anger, resentment, or revenge don't come from the actions of the enemy, but from within. Through this realization, they learn to take back control of their emotions. Now imagine, what if we used this perspective shift to change the way we see our enemies? What if we stopped viewing them as sources of pain and instead saw them as catalysts for our personal growth and self-improvement? Adversaries, in this light, become our teachers, offering us lessons about ourselves, about the world, and about how to navigate through adversity. Imagine greeting your enemy with gratitude, not because you're thankful for the harm they caused, but because of the opportunity they've provided for you to grow, to build resilience, and to practice patience. This doesn't mean that you condone their actions or allow them to walk over you. Instead, it means you see them for what they are, a part of your journey, a challenge to overcome, and a chance to become a better version of yourself. This shift in perspective doesn't just transform how you see your enemies, it also changes how you interact with them. Instead of wasting energy on anger or revenge, you focus on what truly matters. This is the beauty of Stoicism. It empowers us to dismiss the provocations of our enemies, to ignore their attempts to drag us down into a spiral of negativity, and instead, focus our energy on our growth, our virtue, and our self-control. By embracing the Stoic philosophy, you can learn to disempower your adversaries without resorting to violence or harboring ill will. Instead of letting their actions dictate your emotions, you can choose to rise above, to focus on what you can control, and use the situation as a catalyst for self-improvement. This is the path of wisdom, virtue, and self-control. This is the path to becoming the best version of yourself. And this is just the beginning of a transformative journey that can change not just how you see your enemies, but how you see yourself and the world around you. Having gained this new perspective on our adversaries, we can delve deeper into understanding their mindset and motivations. Why do they behave as they do? What drives them to act in a way that we perceive as negative or harmful? The Stoics believed that no one does evil knowingly. People act according to their understanding of what is good or beneficial. When someone harms us, it's often because they believe, rightly or wrongly, that it's in their best interest to do so. Understanding this can be transformative. Instead of seeing your enemy as a source of evil, you begin to see them as a misguided individual, acting out of ignorance rather than malice. Through this understanding, you can begin to foster a sense of compassion for them. Yes, compassion, even for those who have wronged you. Now, bear with me. I'm not suggesting that you become a doormat or allow others to take advantage of you. Instead, what I'm encouraging you to do is to steer clear of hatred and resentment. By understanding why your enemy acts the way they do, you can separate their actions from their inherent worth as a human being. They may have made poor choices, and they may need to face consequences, but they are not inherently evil. They, like all of us, are human beings, capable of growth and change. So, how does this understanding help us deal with our enemies? Well, when we understand someone's mindset and motivations, we can find ways to respond that will foster mutual respect and cooperation, rather than escalating conflict. We can use this knowledge not just to defend ourselves, but also to influence our adversaries, to help them see the error of their ways and perhaps even turn them into allies. This process requires not just understanding, but also forgiveness. It requires us to let go of our anger and resentment, to free ourselves from the emotional chains that bind us to our enemies. Remember, holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It harms us far more than it harms them. To forgive is not to say that what the person did was okay. It's not about absolving them of their responsibility or ignoring the harm they caused. It is, instead, a decision to release ourselves from the burden of hatred and anger. It's a testament to our strength, our generosity, and our capacity to rise above pettiness and retaliation. Forgiveness is a gift we give to ourselves, a gift of peace and liberation. And the act of forgiveness often has a transformative effect not just on us but on our enemies as well. When we respond to hatred with understanding, to harm with forgiveness, we create an opportunity for change, not just in ourselves but also in them. But understanding and forgiveness are not enough. To truly deal with our enemies, we must also outsmart them. We must use our intelligence, creativity, and strategic acumen to anticipate their moves, to navigate conflicts, and to protect ourselves. Stoicism doesn't advocate for passivity or resignation. Instead, it encourages active engagement with the world, using wisdom and virtue as guiding principles. To outsmart your enemies, you must think several steps ahead. You must anticipate their moves, understand their tactics, and devise a response strategy that aligns with your values and protects your interests. This doesn't necessarily mean beating them at their own game or sinking to their level. Instead, it means finding a way to maintain your integrity, uphold your values, and ensure your well-being while dealing with them. The final step in this transformative journey is to love your enemies. Now, before you protest, let me clarify. To love your enemies doesn't mean you have to like them, agree with them, or even trust them. It means recognizing their inherent humanity, acknowledging their capacity for growth and change, and responding to their animosity not with hatred, but with an unwavering commitment to your values and principles. When we respond to hatred with love, to animosity with kindness, we embody the best of what it means to be human. We demonstrate our divinity, our inherent beauty, and our capacity for love. And in doing so, we create the possibility for transformation, not just in ourselves, but also in those who oppose us. In the end, the best way to deal with your enemies isn't to defeat them in a battle or to wish them harm. The most profound way to deal with them is to transform your perspective, to see them as teachers, to understand and forgive them, to outsmart them while maintaining your integrity, and to respond to their animosity with love and kindness. This is the way of the Stoic, the way of wisdom, virtue, and self-control. And this pathway doesn't just transform our relationship with our enemies, it transforms us, making us better, wiser, and more virtuous individuals. As we proceed on this transformative journey, we now turn our focus to a key concept in Stoicism, mindfulness. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of being present, not just physically but also mentally and emotionally. It's about being aware of our thoughts, feelings, and reactions, and learning to manage them in a way that aligns with our values and principles. By cultivating Stoic mindfulness, we can develop the ability to respond rather than react to situations, including encounters with our enemies. It's about taking a step back when faced with adversity or hostility, and asking ourselves, what is within my control here? How can I respond in a way that upholds my integrity and values? How can I use this situation as an opportunity for growth and learning? An integral part of Stoic mindfulness is taking responsibility for our actions and emotions. Instead of blaming others for our feelings or reactions, we acknowledge that we are the ones who assign meaning to events. Our enemy doesn't make us angry or upset. We make ourselves angry or upset by the way we interpret their actions. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them. This doesn't mean we should ignore or dismiss our feelings. On the contrary, Stoicism encourages us to acknowledge and understand our emotions, but not to be enslaved by them. By practicing emotional detachment, we can observe our feelings without letting them dictate our actions. We can choose to respond with wisdom and virtue rather than being swept away by our emotional reactions. Another important aspect of Stoic mindfulness is focusing on the present moment. Stoics believe that the past and the future are beyond our control, and that dwelling on them only leads to unnecessary suffering. The only thing we can truly control is our actions and attitudes in the present moment. This focus on the present doesn't mean we should ignore the past or the future entirely. On the contrary, Stoics encourage us to learn from the past and plan for the future, but not to become consumed by regret, worry, or fear. By focusing on the present, we can take action now to influence our future in a positive way. Now let's move on to another critical aspect of Stoicism, resilience. Stoics believed that adversity is a part of life, and that we should not just endure it, but embrace it. They saw adversity not as a misfortune, but as an opportunity for growth and learning. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca said, difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. Stoic resilience is about finding inner strength to face adversity, to endure hardship without losing our inner peace and tranquility. It's about learning to accept our circumstances, not in a passive or resigned way, but in a way that enables us to respond wisely and virtuously. Two key practices in developing Stoic resilience are amor fati, or love of fate, and premeditatio malorum, or premeditation of evils. Amor fati is about accepting and embracing whatever happens in life, trusting that it's for the best, even if we can't see it at the time. It's about loving our life, in all its complexity and unpredictability. Premeditatio malorum, on the other hand, is a practice of visualizing potential setbacks or hardships. By contemplating future difficulties, we can prepare ourselves mentally and emotionally to face them. This practice helps us reduce anxiety and fear and builds our resilience. In conclusion, the wisdom of Stoicism offers us profound ways to deal with our enemies without resorting to physical combat or harboring resentment. It encourages us to see our adversaries as teachers, to understand and forgive them, to outsmart them while maintaining our integrity, to respond to their animosity with love, and to cultivate mindfulness and resilience in the face of adversity. Most importantly, Stoicism teaches us that the key to our well-being doesn't lie in changing others or external circumstances, but in changing ourselves. It invites us to live in accordance with our deepest values, to cultivate inner peace and tranquility, and to strive for personal growth and self-improvement. And in doing so, it transforms not just our relationship with our enemies, but our relationship with ourselves and with the world at large. In the mosaic of life, it's not uncommon to encounter individuals whom we perceive as adversaries. These adversaries, however, present us with something unique. They provide us with a mirror to our own selves, our preconceptions, our judgments, our insecurities, and our fears. They compel us to reflect and introspect, and, paradoxically, they serve as catalysts for our personal development. Consider this. Often, it's our enemies who provide the most valuable lessons. They test our patience, They challenge our views, they stimulate our thinking, and they push us out of our comfort zones. They contribute to a process of self-improvement that we might not have embarked upon otherwise. But how do we harness this potential for growth? The answer lies in a shift of perspective, a transition from viewing enemies as obstacles to viewing them as teachers. Instead of reacting with resentment or antagonism, we need to respond with gratitude for the lessons we learn and the growth we experience because of them. Remember, it's not the person who is the enemy. It's the behavior or the action that causes the discord. As we move on, let's delve into a strategy that might seem counterintuitive at first, but holds a profound wisdom within its simplicity: ignoring our enemies. By ignoring, we don't mean turning a blind eye to harmful actions or behaviors, but rather not being swayed by provocations, not giving them the power to dictate our state of mind. The Stoic philosophy encourages us to focus our energy on things that truly matter and are within our control. When we indulge in the game of retaliation or let the words or actions of our adversaries affect us, we waste our energy that could have been used for something constructive. It's about choosing peace over chaos, tranquility over turbulence. Moving on, let's talk about understanding our enemies. This, as you can imagine, is a challenging task, and yet, it's one that holds the potential for transformation. Understanding an enemy doesn't mean endorsing their harmful actions or behaviors. It means trying to comprehend their motivations, their mindset, their perspectives. By doing so, we might find common ground and transform an adversary into an ally. We might be able to address the root cause of the conflict, rather than just fighting the symptoms. It's about choosing compassion over hatred, forgiveness over resentment, mutual acceptance over intolerance. This brings us to the next important point: outsmarting our enemies. This isn't about deceit or manipulation. It's about using our intelligence, our creativity, our wisdom to anticipate moves and counter moves, to navigate conflicts in a manner that upholds our values and integrity. It's about choosing strategy over brute force, negotiation over combat. The cornerstone of all these strategies, however, is forgiveness. Forgiveness can be one of the most challenging things to offer, especially when we feel wronged or hurt. Yet, it's one of the most liberating actions we can take. By forgiving, we free ourselves from the chains of hatred, anger, and resentment. We choose peace over turmoil, love over hatred. And yes, love. Love, in this context, doesn't mean romantic or affectionate feeling towards an enemy. It means acknowledging the shared humanity, the divinity within each one of us. It means choosing to respond to animosity with kindness, to hatred with compassion, and to hostility with understanding. It's about recognizing the inherent beauty in every soul and choosing to honor and respect it, no matter what. In the end, it all comes down to developing a Stoic mindset, cultivating mindfulness, understanding and forgiving our enemies, choosing love over hatred, and displaying resilience in adversity. By doing so, we can transform our relationship with our enemies and ourselves, and lead a life guided by wisdom, virtue, and tranquility. Through mindfulness, we can cultivate the Stoic mindset. Mindfulness is the practice of being present, fully engaged with whatever we're doing at the moment, free from distraction or judgment, and aware of our thoughts and actions. This essential practice forms the bedrock of emotional intelligence and self-awareness, allowing us to better understand ourselves and our reactions to external provocations. By focusing on ourselves, taking responsibility for our actions and emotions, and practicing emotional detachment, we can foster a sense of inner peace and tranquility. But Stoicism doesn't stop at mindfulness. It takes us a step further, guiding us to find strength in adversity. Many may view adversity as a setback or a hurdle, but the Stoics see it differently. They view adversity as an opportunity for growth, a teacher that compels us to become resilient, to adapt, to evolve. Adversity is not a signal to retreat, but a call to rise and push through the darkness towards the light of wisdom, knowledge, and self-improvement. In this journey, two key concepts from Stoic philosophy can serve as invaluable tools: amor fati, or love of fate, and premeditatio malorum, or the contemplation of future evils. Amor fati is about embracing whatever life throws at us, not with resignation, but with enthusiasm, seeing every event, whether good or bad, as an integral part of the grand tapestry of life. It's about looking at every experience as a stepping stone towards becoming the best version of ourselves. Premeditatio malorum, on the other hand, is a strategy of visualizing potential challenges or difficulties in the future. It's not about pessimism, but about preparedness. It's about equipping ourselves with the mental resilience to face adversity, to be able to say, "I saw this coming and I am ready for it." These practices enable us to build resilience and stand firm in the face of adversity, turning obstacles into opportunities for growth. Stoic philosophy offers us transformative ways to deal with adversaries without resorting to physical combat or emotional turmoil. It teaches us to dissolve enmity through wisdom, virtue, and self-control, to harbor gratitude for the lessons our enemies teach us, and to outmaneuver conflicts with strategic acumen. It urges us to understand and forgive our enemies, to see the shared humanity in them, and to respond to their hostility with compassion and kindness. In this journey, we are not just transforming our relationship with our enemies, we're also evolving as individuals. We're learning to be more emotionally intelligent, more resilient, and more compassionate. We're learning to live in accordance with our deepest values, to lead a life of tranquility and inner peace. We all have the potential to become better versions of ourselves. And the path to self-improvement often lies in the most unexpected places, like in our dealings with our adversaries. Remember, our enemies are not the cause of our suffering, but our response to them is. And when we choose to respond with understanding, compassion, and love, we're not just dealing with our enemies, we're also choosing a path of wisdom, virtue, and self-improvement. Thank you for joining me on this journey of self-discovery and growth. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel for more insights on personal development and emotional intelligence. Remember, we're all in this journey together, learning, growing, and striving to become the best versions of ourselves. Let's continue this journey together. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.